Good. Okay. We continue. So, I'm going to talk to you about Christianity and the influences of it on Western civilization. And that's really what I'm going to do. So, Christianity starts in a certain year, and this is a single most important happening in the history of Western civilization, right? Because Western civilization is going to be highly religious for many years to come. So, from the birth of Jesus till about like the 1600s, most art is going to be religious in nature. So I'm going to explain to you a little bit the origins of Christianity, what it meant for the time period it started in, the belief system of Christianity, and also why it's important for our values, right? So here we go. So Christianity is basically based off people believing that there is only one God, right? And the name of this God, of course, obviously is God. He doesn't really have another name, right? So Christians believe that he created everything. He created the earth, the sky, the planets, the animals, everything that you could know, right? And they believe that God, does this in like 6 days, and on the seventh day he does nothing. He takes a rest, and the day is Sunday, right? So on Sunday God doesn't do any work, right? Now Christians believe that God lives in a place called heaven, which is way up high in the sky, and he lives there together with his angels. And angels are grown people with wings, right? So basically, that is where he lives, right? Now, he lives there for a long time, and everything is really nice, right? So, I'm going to show you some examples. A little bit out of it for the moment. Oh, where am I going? This way. Okay, good. Now, I'm going to show you something important. So, something important that will get you to understand a little bit the timeline of what I am talking about, right? So, the Western civilization's calendar, we are currently living in the year 2022 AD. Now, nowadays, nobody writes AD behind this anymore, but basically, what it means is the year 2022 Anno Domini, which means as much as the year of the Lord. And by Lord, we mean God, right? So basically, Western calendar is based off of the birth of Jesus. So currently, it's 222 years ago that Jesus Christ was born. Now, anything that happens before Jesus Christ is born, we call BC, which comes down to before Christ. And basically, that all goes into the minus. So the year 2 is longer ago. The year 2020 is way farther back. So our calendar for Western civilization is a little bit strange because we go back to the year 0. And that, of course, is a super important happening in our history, right? So I'm gonna continue explaining a little bit about the origins of Christianity and the purpose of it. And you need to understand this a little bit because otherwise you will never fully be able to appreciate the art that is made by Christians, right? Okay. Or the art of Western civilization. Okay, because it's gonna be super influential. So here we go. So God creates basically everything that we know. It takes him 6 days to do that. On the seventh day, he has a nice rest, right? Now, he creates the earth and everything in it, and it's all super nice. But then, really, there is nobody to enjoy this, right? So then God has a good idea, and he says, "You know what? I'm going to create the first man." And the first man that I'm going to create, I'm going to name him Adam, and he's going to be able to live in this garden. So on the earth, God creates this beautiful garden, and this garden or this place is called the Garden of Eden, right? So in the Garden of Eden, it's beautiful, you know. It's always nice, beautiful weather. There's all kinds of interesting trees and plants, and there's lots and lots of animals, and there's basically two of every single species, right? So there's a male and a female of all the different species. Now, the Garden of Eden is an extremely wonderful and peaceful place. Nothing here will harm anything else. Every animal is nice, friendly, and they all coexist. Nobody is getting eaten, nobody's getting hurt. Adam is walking around completely naked, he's having a great time. And every once in a while, God will come to the garden and say, "Hey Adam, I'm God, I'm basically your father. I created you in my liking, and I just come to talk to you, and I would like you to explore. And then look at all these things I created. I haven't named any of them, so can you just go and come up with some interesting names for all these things that I guess, what do you call those things? Oh, you call those animals? Okay, cool. So what do you call this animal?" So Adam and God have like a lot of time together, and it's really nice, right? Now, while this is happening, there is a angel that lives way up high with God together in the Garden of Eden, right? Now, this guy that lives there, this angel, his name is Lucifer, Lucifer Morning Star. And he is an angel. In fact, he is an archangel, right? So he lives together with God in heaven, right? And he says to God, "God, why are you spending so much time with this Adam person, you know? Like, he's not special. You should spend more time with us angels, you know? Like, we are way more interesting than those people, you know? Blah, blah, blah." And basically he gets like really upset with God, and yeah, he's super sad, you know? This is I really like this painting. This is a painting of Lucifer, that's his name. Lucifer Morning Star, the bringer of light, right? Now, he's really angry with God, and you can see he's sad, he's angry, he's not feeling it, right? Now, God is very angry with Lucifer because he says, "Why are you so jealous? Don't be jealous, blah, blah, blah." And they get into huge arguments, right? And then Lucifer convinces a lot of the other angels to go and stand up and resist against God. And this will give us really wonderful, interesting paintings, because basically this will give us painting like these. There's going to be a big fight or a rebellion in the heavens, and it's called the rebellion of the fallen angels. So Lucifer is able to convince a lot of other angels that they should go and resist God, and then they get into this huge fight, right? So you'll find lots of really beautiful, interesting paintings made about these scenes, right? So whenever you see like paintings of angels, those are people with wings fighting with people that have like other type of animal wings, or that have like monstrous animal features, like for example in here, right? Then you're looking at a painting that is depicting the good angels fighting the bad angels, right? Look, super interesting material, right? I'm a very big fan of paintings like these. I think these are so much drama and action in them, right? They're super interesting, right? So basically they all get kicked out of heaven because the good angels win, right? And then Lucifer and all the fallen angels, they will fall down to earth, and then what will happen is they will become basically the lord of this place over here, right? And this place is called hell, right? So Lucifer has many different names. You can also call him Satan or the devil or Beelzebub, but basically he is the devil, and he is, he's there because I told you earlier, like religion has a purpose, because in religion there is a difference between things that are good and things that are evil, right? That is really a big theme. So I want you to think about that a little bit, right? So if we have on one end of the spectrum over here, we have God, who is good. That is like love and light, right? That's all the good things. Then underneath here we have all the bad things. So that is Lucifer, and that is bad, and that is hate, and that is darkness, right? And these two things are essentially exactly what humanity is always going to be struggling with, right? And that is for many different religions the same. If I were to do something like this, and I say, here, you have like your yin and you have like your yang, that is always the same stuff, right? Like you have things that are good, and you have things that are, oh, wrong way around, sorry about that. So you have things that are good, and you have things that are bad, and that is a conflict that is as old as time, right? Why would you not, for example, just grab an assignment from the internet and then upload it and say that you have created it, right? Why not? Well, you don't do that because it's something that is not good, because you are lying, right? And lying is something that is not good. So together as a society, you have to come up with rules or values that you believe in, so that you can live together in a group. Because if everybody was just lying and stealing the whole time, then there is no way for you to live in a community with other people, right? Because if everybody were just to accept that you can just lie and cheat your way through life, then what's the point, you know? Like there is 0 point, there is no, there's nothing there. It's just mayhem, basically, right? So Lucifer fulfills the role of all the darkness that is in the world, right? So essentially, Christian religion gives you two options, basically, right? You can follow the light side, everything that is good, right? And this comes back in everything. It comes back in stories too. For example, if you look at a movie, there's always a conflict between doing the good things and people doing bad things, you know? There's like, for example, Star Wars, where you have like the Force and the light side, and then you have like the Empire, which is like the dark side. Really, humanity is always about an internal struggle between what is right and what is wrong, right? And religion gives you rules to follow, right? And it gives you a purpose. Now, Christian religion not only gives you rules to follow, and I'll explain those rules in detail a little bit later, it also makes you a promise. And the promise is as followed. If you follow God's rules, then in the end of your life, there's going to be a reward. And the reward is going to be that you can go to the heavens and you can live there together with God, and it's going to be amazing, right? Now, if you break the rules, so if you live a life that is bad because you cheat on your wife, or you cheat in your school, or you're just cheating or stealing or lying or any of those things, right? Then basically means that you are going to be punished. You're going to be punished for eternity, right? So here we go. These are all paintings of hell, right? And of course, hell is not 100% Christian invention. It is basically, all religions are very interlinked, right? So if you think about Hades, for example, that he had the underworld, this is just an adaptation of that. But this is the Christian version, right? So if you have done bad things in life, you are gonna go to hell. And hell is a terrible place because you will be punished there for eternity, right? Basically, you have lost your soul, you're gonna go there, and it's gonna be horrible, right? And this is, of course, a big punishment, and this punishment and these paintings are there to remind people that you have to be good, because if you're not good, you're gonna be punished, and you're gonna have to spend the rest of your eternity, so it's never stopping, you're gonna spend in hell. And these paintings, of course, are also very interesting because they're all nightmarish visions made by different artists about this object, right? And of course, they're all there to frighten you, right? To make sure you're doing the right thing. So without knowing these Christian stories, it's a little bit difficult to understand what you are looking at, right? So these are all different fantasies about what hell could look like, right? And what these demons look like, or fallen angels, right? Super interesting stuff. See? Very interesting stuff. These are all from different time periods, right? Super cool. Okay, so Lucifer basically falls to the ground. He keeps on falling and he lands in hell, and he becomes there the lord of the underworld, right? Now, Christians also believe that the purpose of Lucifer is to try and steal souls away from God, right? So he's always out to tempt people to break the rules because he's angry of God, right? So if that's basically his purpose in life, right? Okay, so we move on. So in the beginning, when of course he's so super angry about God spending so much time with Adam, then basically that is when all of this stuff is happening, right? Now in the meantime, Adam has been spending a lot of time in the Garden of Eden, and he's had so much fun, but then he feels a little bit lonely because God is not always there to talk to him, right? And he cannot really talk to any of the animals. So the next time God comes back, he says, hey God, listen, you are like not always here, and so sometimes I feel pretty lonely. Now I've noticed that there is basically two of every single one of the animals. There's like a male and there's like a female. I would very much also like to have a companion because I'm just on my own. And then God says, you know what, Adam, you're right, I'm going to create the first woman. And the first woman, her name is going to be Eve. So Adam and Eve really hit it off, of course, because Adam is so cool because he knows so many things, and Eve basically, she also learn a lot from Adam, and they're having a great time together, right? Now I totally forget to mention this. I should have told you this earlier, but it doesn't really matter. Basically, when he creates the Garden of Eden, he says to Adam first and later also to Eve, you can eat anything in this garden that you want, except for one thing. I ask you not to eat of this one particular tree in the middle, which has apples in it. Now, these apples will have knowledge over good and evil, right? So please, you can eat whatever you want, just don't eat from this tree, right? So Adam and Eve, of course, say, oh yeah, well, that's only a very small thing to ask, We will definitely not eat from this tree, right? But as Adam and Eve are spending a lot of time in the Garden of Eden, having a great time, then little do they know that Lucifer actually turns himself into a snake, right? And he sits in this tree, and then one day Eve walks by the tree, and then Eve hears psst. Well, if you're a woman and you ever hear somebody go psst, please do not turn around, because it's going to be a snake, right? So she turns around and she sees the snake. Now she doesn't understand that the snake is Lucifer. She has no idea, right? Why not? because he doesn't know the difference between good and evil. So there is no reason for her to be afraid of this snake at all, because she doesn't know the difference, right? She's completely innocent. So then the snake says, "Hey Eve, why don't you have a bite of this apple?" And then Eve says, "Well, God told me not to eat from this tree, right?" And then the snake says, "Well, why?" "Well, I don't know." And then the snake tricks her. He says, "You know what? I think actually, why did God put it here, you know? He probably put this here as a test. Though I think if you were to eat from this apple, you will be able to understand God even better. And then when you understand him better, you can be closer to him, right?" So then she says, "You know what? It sounds somewhat logical. I'll try a little bite." So she tries a little bite. And then all of a sudden she realizes she's messed up, because now she knows that she's done something wrong. She knows the difference between good and evil, right? And then of course she's in a total panic, you know, because she broke God's one and only rule. So she screams, "Adam, Adam, come over here." And then Adam comes over here, you know. And then she says, "Adam, I ate the apple." And then Adam has to cry, and she has to cry, and she says, "Please also have a bite." And then Adam says, "But I can't." But then she says, "Yeah, but we're together." And then Adam says, "You know what? Yes." And he also has a bite. Now, all of a sudden, both of them feel super ashamed about their body and that they're being naked. So they start to cover themselves up with little leaves, right? So then God comes, boom, and he sees them, and he's like, "What have you guys done?" And then they said, "Sorry, God, forgive us. We ate of the apple," right? And then God is super angry, super angry. And basically what he does is he says, "You know what? I've had it with you people." And he kicks them out of the Garden of Eden into the real world. Now, the real world is a little bit different than the Garden of Eden, because in the Garden of Eden, if you see a lion, you can just walk up to it and pat it on the head and say, "Hi lion, how you doing?" And then the lion will purr. Now, in the real world, if you were to walk up to a lion, it would basically eat you, right? So when they leave the Garden of Eden, it is a terrible place. There is like mosquitoes, there's animals trying to eat them, there's thunderstorms, there is things with thorns. Life is really hard, you know. They have to find food, they have to find shelter. It's really not fun, right? Now, Christians believe that Adam and Eve are the first two people. They have babies, those babies have babies and babies and babies and babies, and that is how we populate the earth, right? Now, in the meantime, while these Adam and Eve are having all these babies, God sort of like thinks, "You know what, I tried this project, but it didn't really work out. I'm just gonna go and, you know, give up on this people, like whatever, they're not worth my time." So he lets it all go, right? Now, on several occasions, God tries to sort of restart his project with people, right? So Adam and Eve didn't really work out, so then he has a new idea, right? Now he finds a man, and his name is Noah, right? Noah. And Noah lives somewhere high up in the mountains, right? So he finds this man, his name is Noah, and he says to this man, "Hey, Noah, listen up. My name is God, right? And I would like to warn you. In fact, can you please start building a really big wooden ship? Because it's gonna rain and it's not gonna stop raining, right? Basically, it's gonna be a giant flood, right? So you need to build this boat, this big ark, and then two of all the animals are gonna come over and they're gonna wanna be going on board. So you and your family and all the animals will go on board of this ark, right?" And then Noah says, "Well, but I'm living in the mountains. What are you talking about? Why should I build a ship here in the middle of the mountains?" And then God says, "Well, I'm not kidding. You gotta do it, you know. It's gonna happen." So then he's like, "You know what? I am going to do it." Now, This is like a really old painting of this scene, as you can see. It's very funny because like people have not necessarily seen all these different animals yet. So this is what I think a lion looks like, which is quite funny, you know. Anyways, there were also apparently still unicorns back then, but here we go. So these are some different paintings from different time periods about this subject matter, right? And these paintings are also very interesting because how the animals are painted, for example, right? A lot to learn and a lot to unpack there, right? Can talk a lot about these things. This is obviously European painting with a lot of European animals in it, right? And all the birds. So basically they all come to the Ark of Noah, all the animals, right? And then indeed it will start to rain. Rain, 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 rain. Now, it starts to rain and we get this great flood. So that gives us, for example, these paintings over here, right? So you might say, well, how do you know this is about the Ark of Noah? Why is all these people drowning? Well, I can say, well, I know because you can see here in the distance, in the background, you can see this is the Ark, right? So you can see all these people are dying. Basically, God is doing a hard reset. Control, Alt, Delete, wipe out everybody, try again, right? That is the goal of the Great Flood. Because everybody is just sinning the whole time, is going against God's will, right? So everybody will die, except for the people on the ark, right? And the animals. So that gives us wonderful paintings like this, right? Now, everything is hard reset, you know, like the water goes down, everybody has drowned, the animals will have babies and create new animals, Noah will create lots and lots of new babies, so we're trying again. Now, this also still doesn't seem to work out, you know, like still like people are doing all these things that God doesn't want them to do. So then he has another idea. He says, you know what? Maybe if people were to understand maybe the rules that I give them, then maybe they could finally listen to me, right? And then we're talking about this guy, and this guy, his name is Moses, right? And he's gonna help a whole group of Christians flee the Middle East. Anyways, look, basically this is Moses, and these paintings are of Moses, and there's like a bush on fire. Look, there's like a fiery bush over here. 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 So basically these are all paintings with a fiery bush. Now, the bush that is on fire is basically God speaking to Moses. He says, Moses, you're going to have to travel to this particular space or place, and there you will find these big stone tablets. And on these stone tablets I have written down all the rules that I want you to follow. So please find these tablets for me, show them to the people, and then explain what I expect, why I created this world, what I want them to do. So if they do it, then they can come live with me in heaven after they die, right? That is the goal, of course. So then here they go. So these are the 10 rules that you have to follow if you want to go to heaven, right? And these commandments are simple rules. These are rules that if everybody in the whole world would follow these rules, it would be amazing, you know. It would be a fantastic place to live, right? So I have them here on the left and I also have them here on the right, right? So the 10 commandments, and then on the right the same but more for a child. It might be easier to understand. Okay, so the first one is that there's only one God. Done. So the Romans in this time period, they believe in many different gods, right? But of course God says, well, this is all nonsense because there is only one and it is I, so you just have to listen to me, right? That is the first commandment. Simple. Then the second one, you shall not make for yourself an idol. So an idol is if you worship anybody else other than God. For example, if you are a really big fan of, for example, Michael Jackson, and you keep on following Michael Jackson, you say Michael Jackson is so cool, or Michael Jordan, then you basically are not correct, because the gifts that those people that you follow have received, why they are, for example, super good at like singing or sports or whatever, is because God gave them those things, so they are able to do those, right? So that is false. So you should not worship any other individual or anybody else, right? That is very important, because it's not their talent, it's God gave them that talent, right? Then number 3 is respect God's name. So you cannot do any swearing with his name in it, because why would you, you know? People that swear a lot, they do not sound very much intelligent, right? Usually people that are not super intelligent use a lot of swear words, right? Because, yeah, I don't swear when I'm like talking, because, yeah, it's just like very low class to be swearing the whole time. It really is. It doesn't. Do you think of anybody intelligent? Do you hear them use a lot of swear words? No, not really, right? Then number 4, that you have to keep the Sabbath day holy. So that means that you should not work on Sundays, right? So a Christian is not supposed to do any work on Sunday. Simple. Then the next one is respect your parents, honor your father and your mother. Well, I never really understand this until I have my own children, but you do spend so much energy and time into your children that you have to give up most of your own free time in life. So it is very nice if you invest so much time, energy, and effort into making your children happy, that at least they can show you a little bit of respect, right? So that's number 5. Number 6, no murdering. Don't murder anybody. No killing. Well, this is a great rule. If everybody could follow this, life would be amazing, right? Then the next one is do not commit adultery. So adultery is many different things. Adultery can mean that you are cheating on somebody. Adultery can also mean that you have, for example, sexy time before marriage. Now, that's a rule, Christian rule, right? So basically, they only want you to have sexy time in order to reproduce, right? And of course, um, yeah, that's a difficult rule to follow for many people. Okay. Then the next one is no stealing, and I agree. If nobody were to steal anything with anybody, that would be great. Then, of course, no lying about things, not lying about anybody else, not lying about things that you did that you didn't do, right? Just don't lie. Lying is terrible, because you will always, you basically force yourself to be stuck in a specific thought forever until you get caught, right? Because if you lie and you do something and you didn't do it yourself, and then later on somebody says, "Oh, this is so cool, how did you do it? Can you teach me?" Then like you don't have no idea what you're talking about, and then you have to make more lies, you know? Like a lie is just like a web that keeps on, like, it's like a hole that you keep on digging deeper and deeper and deeper, and it's just, oh, it's so terrible to lie. Don't lie, right? Then don't be jealous, and that is very important too. Don't be jealous of other people, because you have no idea, you know, what's going on in their lives. You have no clue, right? Now, these are 10 commandments, they're 10 rules, and they're 10 rules that are perfect to run a society. Because if in the society nobody's going to steal, nobody's going to lie, and nobody's going to cheat on your wife, and everybody's gonna not be jealous, then and everybody respects their parents, it's amazing, you know. Everybody can live in total harmony. That is the overall goal of Christianity, is having people to be able to live together in a large group in peace and harmony. That is the purpose of every single religion out there. That is the function, right? It's the glue to keep society together. Excellent. Okay. So these rules, of course, make a lot of sense, and it slowly helps people to follow them a little bit, but still it doesn't really fully work. So then God has one more plan, last plan. He says, you know what, maybe if I were to send my son to earth, then maybe then he can talk to them, and then he will be able to explain that I created everything and that I love all the people and that I want them to be happy and follow my rules so they can come join me in heaven, right? So God finds a woman, and the woman's name is Maria. Okay, I did not prepare this one in a thing, but it's gonna be super simple to find you. Annunciation of Maria. Or is it Christ? I don't know. Annunciation. I cannot write this down. Okay. So basically, an angel will come to Maria, and these are lots of different paintings about the same subject matter, right? It will come to Maria, and it will say, listen, Maria, you're going to have to travel to a place called Bethlehem, and you are going to have a child. And Maria says, well, I am a virgin. How am I going to have a child? And then the angel says, you're going to have a child. This child is going to be special. It's going to be the child of God, right? And then Maria says, oh, okay. That's what's about to happen, right? So Maria, of course, has a husband. The husband's name is Joseph, right? And Joseph and Maria, they will go to a place to have birth. And this place is going to be in the Middle East. It's going to be in, well, actually, I can probably find it on Google Maps. So why don't I do that for you? Because that's going to make some sense. Google Maps, do I have it? I don't think I have it on here. Okay, no worries. I'll find it like this. Google Maps. Google Maps. So, where do they go? They go over here. They go to a place called Bethlehem. Bethlehem. Bethlehem in, not the USA, like, of course, in Jerusalem. Hoppa. So they travel, because he's born in the Middle East, in a place called Bethlehem over here. And Bethlehem is in Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is in the Middle East, right? Jerusalem, right there, Israel, right? So they're very pregnant. She's very pregnant. She's about to give birth, but then they don't have any place to stay. So they go to a bar that also has it's like an inn, a bar and an inn. And then there's no more rooms. But the barkeep can see that she's super pregnant, so he feels a little bit guilty. So he says, you know what, there's a stable over here, you know, where the animals stay in. Why don't you stay the night over there? And then they do. And then she gives birth. She gives birth to this little dude named Jesus, right? So she gives birth to Jesus, and Jesus is a wonderful little child. He's the Son of God, right? Now, this happens at Christmas, and that's why we're having Christmas holiday, right? So all holidays in Western society are tied to happenings from Christianity, from the Bible. We have the Christmas holiday, we have Easter holiday, and so on, right? So Jesus is born. Now, when Jesus is born, there's going to be a huge bright star, you know, and then these wise men from the east, they will come and they will travel to meet baby Jesus, and they give him all kinds of presence because a new king is born, right? Okay, so we continue. Now there's a lot more stories I can tell you, but I'm making it as fast as possible because I keep on rambling on otherwise, right? Okay, so Jesus grows up and Jesus turns out to be a wonderful man, right? Now Jesus looks like this, right? But of course that's not at all what he looks like. He's not a blonde boy with hair like this. This is all painted, of course, by people in Europe, Europeans, right? So he's modeled after European. This is of course nothing that he looked like because he was born in the Middle East, right? So he should look more Middle Eastern, but that's okay. Good. So Jesus grows up and Jesus performs lots and lots of miracles, right? So there's people that cannot walk, and then he said, well, my Father, by the power of my Father, I will make you walk again. So he heals a lot of people, right? Jesus basically is love. He talks to everybody. He says, you know, my Father is God. If you follow the rules, you get to live in heaven. And people say, hey, man, like, this is really good stuff. Jesus, please tell us more. So more and more people start to follow him, right? He's helping, he's loving, he splits whatever he has. He doesn't care about being wealthy. He says wealthy is on the inside, you know. He's just a kind, nice person, you know. He's really all about love. He can perform all these wonderful miracles. He can walk on water, save the people, right? Jesus is awesome. Now, Jesus is born during the time period that the Romans are in control over the Middle East and Jerusalem, right? So, then the Romans find out about this man named Jesus. And Jesus claims that his father is God, right? Now you can imagine that the Romans think Jesus is a little bit of a weirdo, right? Because if I were to tell you that I'm not your art teacher, but actually my father is the God that controls everything, right? Then you might probably say, well, you're probably a little bit delusional, my friend. So the Romans do not like Jesus at all because the Romans believe in many different gods, right? So who is this man saying that, like, he, you know, like that his father is God? Are you kidding me, right? So what do? Well, they decide to teach Jesus a lesson and the rest of the world because they are going to make him carry his own cross to the streets. And they give him a crown because he's the new king. Well, look at it. Here's your crown of thorns, right? And then they hang Jesus on the cross. And of course, that will become the symbol of Christianity, right? So they hang him there, which is something they would do to common criminals, you know. If you're a criminal, they would just hang you like this, and it's a terrible way to die. It will take a long time, and it really, really hurts, right? So he's hanging there, it's horrible. One of the guards takes pity on Jesus, and he gets this like long pilum, and he stabs him in between the ribs into the heart, so Jesus dies. Jesus is dead. Super sad. Good. So then they put Jesus in a cave. They put him in blankets, they put him in a cave. Everybody's super sad because Jesus was such a good guy. And then everybody says, yeah, you know, we were used to follow him and he said his father was God, but then he got killed. And then they said, well, maybe his father wasn't God after all, but nonetheless, he was a wonderful, wonderful guy, right? So they're all sad. So then, this happens at Easter, by the way. Easter holiday. Then, voila! They open the gate to bury him. And then, when they roll the big stone out of the way, out pops Jesus. And Jesus said, ha! I died, you know. I died, but I've come back to life. I have died, and basically I have died for all of your sins. So a sin is whenever you break one of the rules that God gives you, one of the 10 commandments, right? So he says, I have died and all your sins have been forgiven, including the original sin, the sin of Adam and Eve eating the apple. God has forgiven everything. It's a new start. I am Jesus. I'm going to heaven right now. I will be waiting there for you. Please follow my rules and join me when you pass away, right? And then the people say, whoa, this is like quite an important happening. So then they write down all these stories in this book. And this book is called the Bible, right? Awesome. So everything is written down in the Bible. Then, of course, again, this is Moses. This is like the rules. Now, I've written for you two things here, Old Testament and New Testament. If ever you wonder what the difference is, the Old Testament is basically everything before Jesus. The New Testament is everything after Jesus. So in the beginning, God is a very angry God. He's very furious. When people break the law, he's immediately like, bleh, angry, right? And that doesn't really work. So over time, the image of God will change. So in the New Testament, he becomes more like a father figure, and a father figure is a little bit more forgiving, right? So in the Old Testament, if you did something wrong, you would just be, for example, your father would grab, I know something, and he would hit you over the head. In the New Testament, he would say, "Oh, have you done something wrong? Oh, I am so disappointed in you." You know, so he's slightly more mild. That is the difference between those two things. Okay, now lots and lots of people will become interested in this new God, because of course you can imagine all the friends of Jesus, when they write down all these stories in the Bible, they also have just witnessed this miracle of him standing back up. So they really want to teach people to become Christians too. So they start to tell other people these stories in the hope that they will become Christians, and Christianity slowly becomes a little bit more popular and popular. But it is 100% illegal to be a Christian in this time period. If the Romans find out that you are a Christian, they will then capture you, and then they will put you in the Colosseum, whoops, and they will have the lions eat you. And this happened every day, you know, every day in the Roman Empire. They would capture Christians or people that become Christian, and then they would sacrifice him, whoopa, in the Colosseum before the big game started, right? So the Christians was a very much an underground religion in the beginning, but the Romans could not stop it, right? So Christians started to create secret underground churches. So they would hold services in secret places. Now, I'm going to tell you more about this, but I'm going to tell you more in the next video.